Hi there, everybody. This is Datila, and welcome to the BodySlam's TNA IMPACT Review. I am joined by my co-host, Burt Macklin. Where are you, Burt? There you are.
How are you?
I'm doing fine, and yourself?
Good. Just watched a great episode of TNA.
Yes, definitely. Such a fantastic episode. We got quite a few things to talk about. First, let's kick things off talking about this incredible main event, the first match of the best of three series, the Grizzled Young Vets versus the ABC. We got our first viewer, Joseph. Hey. Welcome. So, this match was freaking incredible. Like, I think the Grizzled Young Vets did a fantastic job at some point at isolating isolating Chris Bay from Ace Austin. What about you? What did you think of this match?
Yeah, I really like the Grizzled Young Vets were working as the clear heels. The way they manipulated the rules. Like you said, it seemed like for a while Ace Austin was in there by himself, and then, but toward the end, ABC, it picked up for them. But I really like the finish in. I think it was Drake utilizing a scarf behind the ropes.
Yeah.
And then their finisher is just awesome. It's basically a double code breaker, and it just looks so cool, and it looks devastating as hell. So yeah, I really like them getting the first win. I think it kind of like sets the tone for this series.
I agree. I feel like them getting the first win means a lot. You know that, yeah, like you said, that grit your teeth is a freaking awesome finisher. And I feel like it makes GYV look like this threat, because now it's up to ABC to get that second win. Otherwise, they're going to lose their tag titles. And I really like that.
I honestly thought that it was going to go down this way just in terms because I always thought that the Grizzled Young Veterans were going to end up winning the tag team championships, and I just thought that based on that, you wouldn't have ABC win the first match and then lose two in a row. I like the fact that you weren't going to have you're gonna have it this way where the Grizzled Young Vets get the first one, ABC gets the second one, and it comes down to that final matchup. But I do have Young Vets are going to.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm really happy that they did win the first match. Like you said, you wouldn't have ABC lose two matches in a row. So it made sense for a Grizzled Young Vets to pick up the win here. And then ABC is going to get the second win. And the final match, we'll see who wins that. But really great main event. Great way to close off the show. Wouldn't you agree?
I do. I would agree.
All right. Let's kick things off talking about the opening contest. It was Nick Netman versus Trey Miguel. And this was a great match. Now, of course, Trey Miguel went out there with Zachary Wentz. And Zachary Wentz, he cheap shotted Nick Nemeth. He got in his face. And at some point, he got ejected during this match. And he yelled, he said that Nick Nemeth will rule the day. I mean, I felt bad for Trey Miguel. He took like 10 elbows.
Yeah.
All it's in solid show. Yes, it was.
I don't think I've ever seen someone hit 10 consecutive elbows like that. I just.
Right? I never seen that either. I've never seen someone hit 10 consecutive elbows like that. That was incredible. So, Nick Nemeth won. So now he's got victories over Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel. So he has victories over the Rascals. Smoke them if you got them. It was a 10. Yeah, definitely was. So, like, at the end of the match, we had Steve Macklin come out and he cheap shotted Nick Nemeth as he was leaving. And then, Zachary Wentz came back to help Trey Miguel. And then Steve Macklin working cohesively with the Rascals. He ordered them to get him, and they double teamed him. And then he hit the KIA to Nick Nemeth. This is an interesting pair between Steve Macklin and the Rascals here.
This is one of my favorite moments of the night just because of what you just said. And yeah, I'll add that, like, at first, it seems a little weird. Like, how's this pairing going to work? With this, for me, it's like one of those things that doesn't seem like it's going to work, but it ends up being awesome. Or like two foods that you wouldn't think go together, but they taste great together. I forget the one, but it's like slogans were going together. Like, I think Trey said or Wentz said that they tag them and then Macklin bags them. Like, it works perfectly together. Like, I like this.
Yeah, like in the backstage segment, you're talking about the backstage segment that happened after. Macklin says that he said that Nick Nemeth was a phony and a liar from day one, and that it felt good and it was a good mix. He's talking about him and the Rascals. Wentz said that Macklin would bring the mayhem and they'll bring the smoke, which I thought was funny. Miguel was like, tag him. And then, like, there was that interaction with Speedball Mike Bailey. Now, Speedball Mike Bailey has had his issues with the Rascals here. Even Zachary Wentz alludes to that. And Steve Macklin kind of just backs Zachary Wentz off Speedball Mike Bailey. So, again, very interesting dynamic here. We might get, remember how Trent Seven and Speedball Mike Bailey teamed up? Maybe we'll get a tag team match out of this.
That would be awesome.
It would make sense after that interaction. So, afterwards, we get a design segment, and basically, Diener was talking about how they need to regroup and walk a new path, but Khan says that the design is dead, which catches Diener off by surprise because he says it's always the same bull, with the regrouping and the redesigning. And Khan says that he's going to remind the world who he is, the baddest man in TNA, and it starts tonight. So I guess that's the end for the design. And I kind of had to agree with Khan, that design was never going to be the same as VBD, Violent by Design. I think Dina tried his best, but the group just didn't work out. They kept losing, and Io brings up a good point. Angels wanted out, and now Khan. Exactly. Alan Angels wanted out. I actually was against the fact of Alan Angels joining that design, especially because he had left the Dark Order and he was no longer just a number. So I'm really happy Alan Angels broke away from the design. But what were your thoughts on this segment on Khan saying that design is dead?
Well, yeah, I think like regroup. It would never could seem to be the DVD had. So it kept falling flat. So I think it was time to end it.
Yeah, their booking didn't help either. They kept losing a lot.
Yeah.
You would have thought that they would have became tag team champions and at least maybe the DMC champion, but nope, they just kept losing. So I feel like it was time for them to end the design. We get the DK versus Mila Moore and Savannah Thorne. Obviously, I feel like this match was kind of, as our buddy Lucha would say, an enhancement match for DK because MK Ultra was watching backstage. And, DK obviously won this and weren't going to lose, especially afterwards. MK Ultra gets interviewed and they basically want the rematch at No Surrender, but yet Danny Luna and Jodita interrupt, and Jodita challenges Masha Slamovich tonight on Impact. So I feel like this is an interesting mix now because now we have a new tag team in the form of Danny Luna and Jody Threat. Yet we got MK Ultra wanting the rematch. So if Danny Luna and Jody Threat beat MK Ultra, does that mean they get added into this mix? What do you think, Burt?
That would make sense. I don't think, but I'm more focused on. I'm more excited for what you said. I like that we're seeing a new team and this division is finally taking shape. Because you also have Savannah Evans and Giselle Shaw. So like there's a lot. This division finally has competition. So I like that.
Me too. I feel like for the while now, the Knockouts tag team division has been kind of flat, and it's not because Impact hasn't tried. It's just because they lost. Like I've said this before on my own show. They lost a lot of teams, and they lost way too many teams, more than they can recover, which is why we're at this point where we only have 3 teams. But again, it's not Impact's fault. It's not that they didn't try. It's not that they don't care. It's just they lost a lot of teams. So, but hopefully, slowly but surely, we'll add more women's tag team, more knockout tag teams. We get the debut of the sound check with Alan Angels, and his first guest is Josh Alexander. So, like, it seems like Alan Angels is trying to poke buttons to Josh Alexander because he mentioned, like, he accuses Josh of stepping on toes. He brings up someone who he didn't name. I'm assuming he was talking about himself, though, that Alexander owes to, but he doesn't bring up his name, and even Josh asked him who he's talking about. And he accuses Josh of coming off as being ungrateful, and then he crosses the line by bringing up Jet. I think Allen Angels was talking about himself here, and I wouldn't mind seeing an Allen Angels versus Josh Alexander match. Now, one of the things that I thought was so hilarious about this is at the beginning you see like someone, you know, like on the camera lens, and it's just hilarious.
They didn't seem to have the biggest budget for that.
No, they don't. They were very low budget.
On the end, it looked like they were almost right by the back door of the from where Josh Alexander walked out of.
Right? Joseph Gonzalez says definitely Angels versus Josh soon. Crash and Hardcore Holly vibes in this segment. Yeah, I got those vibes too. So I you know what? I don't mind this because we get to see more of Allen Angels, more of him. And Allen Angels in the few matches that he's had in TNA Impact, he's been incredible. We just need to find something for him to do. You know, I'm surprised he hasn't become X Division champion yet.
Hey, if this ended Josh and Allen Angels as a tag team, I wouldn't mind that.
Let's see, low budget. I thought Eric Young and Josh Alexander would kind of be like a Team Canada. Shout out to Lucha. You know, they were teaming for a little bit before they hit the reset button.
Yeah, that's true.
We get Brian Myers versus Kevin Knight. This is an incredible match. Kevin Knight, a star on the rise, definitely. I want to see more of Kevin Knight in TNA. This match was incredible. Brian Myers was victorious after he hit the roster cutter to Kevin Knight. And, you know, of course, the system had the numbers advantage. Kushida came out to help Knight and even the odds, but the system wanted no part of this. Now, it wouldn't surprise me here, considering what happens later on in the night, if we get maybe some type of 3-man or maybe a 4-man tag match here. But what are your thoughts on Brian Myers versus Kevin Knight?
Yeah, I agree with you that Kevin Knight is a star on the rise. I like during the match, Ray Walt brought up, like, if it was a faction between Kevin Knight, Kushida, and the Machine Guns, I think that the name would have been the Intergalactic Jet Setting Time Machines, which I'm like, sounds like an anime almost, but that made me laugh.
That's a really long name. How do you put that on a shirt?
It would have to be a few lines or just written very small.
Myers and Knight was dang good. Hell yeah, it was.
And I like the I just like the system overall as well. I think they're coming off as a major deal. So I really like this match.
Let me ask something to not only you but the people watching. Do you guys trust the system?
I do.
I do. Do you? Do you guys, our viewers watching, trust the system? Next, we get a Chris Sabin match. Chris Sabin interview. Sorry, bot. Sorry. You don't trust the system? You will eventually. So in this interview, Chris Sabin is asked what he thought about Mustafa Ali going after the X Division title. And of course, like Chris Sabin alludes to the fact that the X Division title is the heart and soul of TNA. And then he gets interrupted by a Mustafa Ali in it. You know, Chris Sabin makes the note that he is a fighting champion. And so I don't know about you, but I cannot wait to see Chris Sabin versus Mustafa Ali. You know that Money of Fries that says shut up and take my money? That's the GIF here. You know, that match is going to be insane. I would not be surprised if it happens at No Surrender. Chris Sabin gets interrupted by the Good Hands. And, you know, John Schuyler, being John Schuyler, says that Mustafa Ali is going to be the next champion, and then Chris Sabin challenges John Schuyler to a match next week. Io saying you trust the system, guitar riff, and it says dream match coming. Yes, indeed, Chris Sabin versus Mustafa Ali is a dream match. Also, Mustafa Ali versus Speedball Mike Bailey, Mustafa Ali versus Trey Miguel, Mustafa Ali versus Zachary Wentz. I hope we get to see some of these dream matches. But what were your thoughts on this segment?
Yeah, like the
What?
I think he's beat Chris Sabin just on his collecting gold tour. I think he's embarking on. But yeah, no, I can't wait for that match. And then yeah, just put Mustafa Ali against the whole roster, and I think the outcome will be above average match. So
yeah, I cannot wait for Mustafa Ali versus Josh Alexander. I still want to see Zack Sabre Jr. versus Josh Alexander, though.
Yeah, definitely.
So Frankie Kazarian finally explains his actions. He talks about how everybody is over the last couple of weeks has asked him why. Why did he turn his back on TNA? Why did he betray Eric Young? And he kind of tells people that they may not like what he has to say, but he talks about how a year ago he returned to TNA to save it. That he came back here because he loves it, and he's been the guy in the water. You know, I guess in the VNS, the guy in the water that they show crossing. He says that he's watched others be given opportunities, and he's been a decent man, but that's going to stop. He's been overlooked, and that's going to stop. Going forward, he has no desire to be a hero to the fans. The only thing people love more is watching the hero fail. That's kind of true. He says that history does not remember soldiers, it remembers kings, and he intends to become king because he brings up the fact that Eric Young is in TNA original just like himself, and he's sat on that throne. He's become king multiple times. And he says every decision he makes forward is going to be for the betterment of TNA, and he will not be taken for granted and will no longer walk in the shadows, and that we have permission to hate him now. This was a fantastic promo by Eric Young. Very clear-cut reasoning as to why he turned on Eric Young. You know, he did come back to TNA to be TNA World Champion. That hasn't happened yet. And he did not get off to a great start in 2024 because he lost 2 matches back-to-back. So what were your thoughts on this promo?
You know, at first I thought it was like, you know, predictable, but then the more he talked, I think he really turned it around. And yeah, like the things he was saying make sense. Like he's never really been the guy while other people have been, you know. So I like this side of Kazarian showing. I'm interested now. So yeah, I really want to see where this goes.
Me too. I'm very curious to see. Ios has finished your story, Cass. LOL. Considering Moose is a heel and Frankie Kazarian is a heel, I have a feeling Moose will have to lose that title for that to happen.
Yeah, I could. I don't see that being the match. So yeah, I don't think it will happen. I agree with you. I think we'll have to be the next champion.
Yes. So we get a system segment, and Alex Shelley basically tells Moose he's getting his rematch at No Surrender. And Moose kind of alludes to the fact that there's 4 of them and only 1 of him, which kind of leads me to, I mean, they already had a 6-man tag match, but maybe we will see the system in the form of Moose, Edwards, and Brian Myers, and maybe a returning. They need a 4th guy. I would think Leo Rush would fit perfectly, and we talked about this last week. It would fit perfectly within the system against the entire team of the Machine Guns, Kushida, and Kevin Knight.
Yeah, that would be a great match. And yeah, I do think Leo Rush would fit if he could come back.
Yeah, because before, like with Moose, Myers, and Bully Ray, he kind of didn't fit. But now with the system in place, I feel like he fits now more.
Definitely.
We get another vignette by Ash by Elegance. And again, I'm very curious to see how she does in TNA without the restrictions from WWE. And you know, I feel like she'll have a chance to shine here. It's too early for me to say how she'll do, but I think she will do. But I think that she will make a great addition to the Knockouts division. And like you mentioned last week, I could potentially see her pairing up with Alicia Edwards. But again, it depends on her character. Her character has to fit the system for it to make sense.
Yeah, as of now, I don't think it does. So yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested to see what they do with her going forward. I'm still told yet.
Same, me too. Again, we have to wait and see. I mean, that's another knockout, but you know, we need teams, and I wouldn't mind if they pair them up again, as long as it fits the system, and as long as they do a storyline, kind of like Masha Samovich and Killer Kelly, how they had a whole storyline before coming together. All right, so Dina cuts a promo. He talks about how he's a man with an admission. He's there to admit that what he created is over and that the design is dead, and admits it's even his fault. He thought he could take something and breathe new life into it. He thought that when Violent by Design died, he could resurrect it into something beautiful, and he was wrong. And he says it doesn't matter if it's a faction, town, or a man. If it's dead, it's never going to rise and come back to life. And guess who comes out?
Yeah, I thought that was very fitting. Like, just
same. I thought it was fitting that PCO came out, and it turned into PCO versus into Diener. This was a squash match. There was no way around it. I mean, PCO went out there and wiped the floor with Diener. So PCO was victorious, and then Khan came out and he attacked PCO, and it looked like he was going to help Diener, but then he attacked Diener. He starts saying it's over. It's over when he says it's over, and he snaps Diener's neck. And PCO sits up and grabs Constant by the skull and chokes him, which I thought was a really cool spot. I kind of feel like now we might get a rivalry between Diener and Khan here. Maybe Khan and PCO as well. So very interesting here with Khan. Khan, when he first bursted onto scene, I don't know if you remember, he was a legit monster. Like Impact, I know I keep saying Impact, but it was Impact at that time. But did a really good job of building him up into a monster, and I feel like we kind of lost that. So this was nice to see him being the monster that he was.
Yeah, I could care less about Diener versus Khan. Give me Godzilla versus King Kong and Diener versus PCO versus Khan. I think that would be the more fun match. Just because I think this is the first time I've ever thought of like Khan, because he's huge, but like they made a monster tonight.
Yeah, I agree. It was nice to see that. It was nice to see him be a monster again, which I feel like was missing. Alrighty, we get an AJ Francis and Rich Swann segment backstage. I don't know if any of you watched Explosion, but if you didn't, or anybody who didn't see Explosion, on Explosion, we had Rich Swann versus Joe Henry. Now, you remember last week, AJ Francis made it a point to ask Rich Swann if he could be in his corner to help him with Joe Henry. Rich Swann refused, and on Explosion, Rich Swann lost to Joe Henry. So, during Liz, AJ Francis tells him he saw what happened with Joe Henry. And once again, he offers his services to Rich Swann, which Rich Swann once again declines. And I thought it was so hilarious that Rhino was walking by, and AJ asked him if he needed help with Crazy Steve, and Rhino tells him to fuck off. And AJ's like, that's why rhinos are going extinct. And Rich Swann tells him there's no one does business with him, which, So, again, I feel like it's a slow but methodical planting the seeds of a Rich Swann heel turn. He lost to Henry. He lost his match to Steve Macklin. Like Frankie Kazarian told him last week, maybe it's time he takes control of his career. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, yeah, that Rhino joke made me laugh. But it's not like I don't blame Rich Swann and Rhino. It's not like AJ Francis has a lot to like. I mean, there's not a lot of previous successes where he was before that he could name. So I don't know why. What makes him someone that people would want to join up with. So
exactly. I mean, the best thing AJ Francis was known was being flop dollar.
Yeah, but obviously the most logical thing, like you said, like everything's pointing to a Rich Swann heel turn. So I don't have a problem with that.
Io says Swann could use a change. I might like the AJ Perry. That's true. Again, no. So next we get Jody Threat versus Masha Slamovich, and this was a pretty decent match. Masha Slamovich, she defeated Jody Threat. Danny Luna did attack Killer Kelly on the outside. We got a snowplow to Jody Threat. That's how Masha Slamovich won this match. I'm really happy that she did win. They did against Jody Threat, but I feel like if MK Ultra is going to get a rematch, they can't be losing to Jody Threat and Danny Luna anytime soon.
Yeah, had to do two things in the match. You had to obviously get win, but you had to make Jody Threat look continue to make her look credible, and Danny Luna, especially if that's going to be a new team going forward. So yeah, I really like this match.
Yeah, I liked it too. And I have a feeling that this feud between them is not over. It's not over yet.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, I would like to have them added to the match just because, like you said, I think that would continue to make the team more credible.
Danny Luna and Jody Thread need to team up more. They've only had like two matches, and I think one when TNA was still Impact as a tag team. So they still need to be teaming up more. They're getting there, but they're not there yet. Luna and Thread fit together as a team. They do, but we need to see more of them as a tag team. They're still not all the way there. You get me? And then at the end, we see the system attack Kushida backstage, and Alex Shelley is just like coming to his aid. And like I said earlier, it seems like they're attacking, they attack Kushida. Brian Myers beat Kevin Knight. They need an X Division guy, and I think Leo Rush would fit perfectly here for the story that they're telling.
Well, I don't think if you think about it, they don't really even need to add someone. Myers or Eddie Edwards could go for the X Division. Just because they're not a typical X Division guy doesn't mean that they can't go out and win it. But yeah, I like them just attacking Shelley. He should have trusted the system. And they're just establishing themselves, like I keep saying, they're the number one faction. So
what happened to Kushida is what happens when you don't trust the system. It's that simple, folks. Just trust the system. All right, and we already talked about the main event, so we're going to go ahead and stop there. But overall, this was a great freaking show. TNA Impact continues to deliver week after week so far. This is only their third week being back. 3 incredible shows back to back, if you ask me.
That's 3 for 3. That's a turkey in bowling.
That's funny. All right, Burt, where can people find you on Twitter? On Twitter, on social media, as we get ready to sign off.
For Mac11 on X, I guess. It feels weird saying that.
Yes, it does. You can follow me on Twitter or on X, whatever you decide to call it these days, at @Datila_. I talk Raw, SmackDown, AEW Dynamite, Friday Night SmackDown, and AEW Rampage. Of course, I cover all TNA Impact, their pay-per-views, and their specials. And with that being said, you guys, thank you guys all so much for watching and for the continued support. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified whenever this video drops, and whenever BodySlam goes live. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
TNA.
TNA. TNA.